sakit pa rin. Hindi pa yata ako over. Hindi ko pa yata kaya. Magiging over na kaya, pa kaya ako. Kaya ko pa kaya to rise above? Namaskaram. Namaskaram, namaste, or namaskar is a Hindu greeting that says the light in me sees and acknowledges the light in you, or the God in me sees and acknowledges the God in you. My name is Marky Mendoza. Welcome to Reiki with Marky, and yet another meaningful episode in our YouTube channel. We have the same setting, and dito na naman kita mo napaka-green ng setting natin. I want to thank my baby for always being very supportive. Lagi niya akong ginagawa ng mga gandang mga background para din syempre ma-enjoy niyo lagi ang kada visit niyo sa ating channel. And for today's channel, this is really something that is very meaningful for me. Itong episode natin today is something that I have also gone through. I have also understood na I have to really go through and I have to process until when I learned and I have finally understood the lesson. I was willing to share this to everybody, and I've shared this to all of my Reiki students na, and I'm happy to share the same wisdom sa inyo today. Now, ang topic natin today, this is really something that is also related to previously meron tayong episode ng how do we move on, o paano nga ba tayo makaka-move on. And this is another follow-up episode just to understand an opportunity bakit tayo matatakot to face our challenges. Ano ba ang usually nagiging trigger natin for us to decide why we are not ready to move on? And this is what that episode is about. In understanding our possible triggers, we will look at it as if this is a chapter in our lives. So most likely, and in our previous episode, we've explained that we have three types of approaches when it comes to dealing and learning from our previous lessons. Now, in this episode naman, ang pag-uusapan natin are the possible triggers kung bakit minsan natatakot tayo to move forward, to move on. And again, I mentioned that this is like gonna be a chapter of our lives. And let this chapter be like a book with 3 pages. Okay? Book tas 3 pages. Ano na, parang nagtitipid na yata. Ano? Hayaan nyo na. Yun na lang naisip kong example. Dahil dyan, shot na muna tayo ng kape. Anyway, ito na naman ang pinakamasayang kape. Okay, magpapaka-vlogger tayo. Okay, kita nyo ba? Wow! Actually, kita na naman kahit walang ganun-ganun. But gusto kong maging Gina G dun sa mga ganun. Kasi pag ganyan ka, legit vlogger ka daw. Okay. Okay. Ay, sorry. Naging ASMR na ba yung ano? Oh, malay nyo, Reiki, ASMR with Marky na yung susunod na channel. Again, ang book natin na nagtipid, 3 pages, pero hayaan mo na. Now, anong meron sa 3 pages na ito? Now, this is something that you would understand how we all get to access our memories, our experiences, for us to prove that we have learned. And what am I talking about? The first page will entail how the lessons are presented. So, andun sa first page natin, nakikita yung buong situation, the scenario, the people involved in what happened in the situation. And that establishes the pattern. Yung tipong titingin ka sa road ahead, yan yung mga patterns na makikita mo, ops, this sounds family. This looks and sounds very familiar because you're starting to see the patterns. The first page will definitely present that. Now, ano naman ang meron sa second page? Naku, kapit. Sa second page, doon yung how devastating the experience was. How the pain, how the suffering unfolded. Yun yung nakapag-walling. Ang sakit. Yun yung sa second. Yun yung second page. And nandun yung naglasing ka, nandun yung nagwalwal ka, nandun yung tinawag mo si Bes. Yun. Sa second page yun. Masyadong malalim. Okay? Parang sugat na pinapatakan ng dayap. Lalim ng dayap. Ganun siya kasakit. Now, the third page is where the resolution is. Doon mo na-discover how strong you are. Doon mo na-discover how the lesson unfolded and you have learned from it. You just didn't learn from it. You learned how to rise above through the steps that you took for you to appreciate the lesson. Now, here is the thing. every single time that we are wanting to learn and we are telling ourselves that we have learned, no matter from which type you're coming from. You may be the dweller, you may be the worrier, or you may be the YOLO in a particular approach in seeing these patterns. And again, there's no judgment on that. I've been there, all those types na pagdaanan ko na yan. But then again, when we're going to approach yung dealings natin, sasabihin natin, ayan na yung pattern. Now, ang goal natin is to learn. Technically, dapat ang pupuntahan natin, ano sa tingin nyo? For us to learn, for us to focus on the learning, for us to see how we're going to deal with this challenge and rise above from it, you may have guessed it. Nasa page 3. Dapat sa page 3 tayo pupunta. Because why? Because sa page 3, nandun yung resolution, nandun yung steps that you took, nandun yung how you have discovered how strong you are by learning the lesson, and that is what we're supposed to do. But what happens is that pag nakita na natin si first page, we see the patterns, we see the possibilities, we, instead of us jumping to step 3 or page 3 rather, nandun tayo sa page 2. Sa page 2 na naaalala natin na ayan yung pattern, ayan din yung sakit, ayan din yung experiences na nag-walling ako, yan din yung experiences na nalasing ako, yan yung experiences that I felt like I lost myself. That is the phase when I felt depressed. That is the phase where I felt that I was hitting rock bottom and hindi ko na kaya. Now, there is no judgment on that. Especially if this is the first time that you are hearing this. Especially if the wisdom is just given to you in this episode. No judgment yan, mga kaibigan. Ang importante, Reiki with Marky is here to let you learn from the lessons and rise above from it. So, how do we deal with it? So, there is again no judgment if you find yourself that you are the dweller, that you are the worrier, or that you are the YOLO. No judgment on that. Ang mahalaga, when we see the patterns, madama man natin si page 2, daanan man natin si page 2, there is no judgment on that. I would want to lift one of the famous quotes in one of the books that I have read. It was a very famous book back in 2014 of John Green, The Fault in Our Stars. Ang sabi dun sa book na yon, pain demands to be felt. Pain demands to be felt. So in short, we are human beings with the heart, with a mind to perceive. When we perceive pain, it really is pain. And what emotions that come with it, hindi ka naman pwedeng nasaktan ka, nakaramdam ka ng hapde, pero tatawa ka ng tatawa. That's a little weird. Pwede, I mean, sorry. But all I'm saying is that sadness is sadness. You may feel crying, you may feel depressed, but because it entails the situation and the emotion entails for you to do so. When you are happy, you also do the things that entails that you're happy. So, we should acknowledge, number 1, we will not deny ourselves. Why? Talon na tapat tayo sa Reiki Principles. Siyempre natin yung solusyon natin. Pero siyempre, we have to work honestly. We have to be honest that this is really something that we felt. This is something that we have perceived. This is the situation right here. So we will never deny ourselves. If we felt it, then we acknowledge it. That's the right process to do it. We will accept and we will trust that this is something that we felt. And you know how it is. So, kapag na-acknowledge na, may sakit pa, may kurot pa, meron pa pala, no? Well, kapag na-acknowledge mo na, then we will trust. How? We trust that it is an experience. How do we ground ourselves? How do we tell ourselves na ito'y naramdaman lang natin? Reality check. Yung nangyari ba sa past, yun pa rin ang nangyayari ngayon? Yun pa rin ba ang current? Yun pa rin ba ang present? Yun pa rin ba ang now? Kung hindi, and then naramdaman lang natin ito. That's another way for you to see our blessings. Naku, napagtatagpi-tagpi na natin ang mga Reiki principles natin. And you know what? When you finally acknowledge and when you finally have checked the reality that this is mine now, I just felt it, it's not the same. It's not the same experience. These are not the same people. I have just realized na meron pa akong sakit na nararamdaman. Proceed na tayo sa page 3. where all the resolution, where all of the great things that you've realized in learning and rising above from the lesson is present. Make sure that you revisit them well. And as you go through this, you have to repeat the process. And remember, how we will do this by changing your thoughts, decisions, and actions. And remember, all the universal spiritual laws will always apply here. Because again, in the universal spiritual law of the law of synthesis, my story is your story, and your story is my story. And we have to remember that the law of resonance, lagi yan papalo, because yun yung law of karma, the law of attraction. It is the golden rule. And every single time that we do not acknowledge, every single time na hindi tayo nagbibigay ng importansya sa mga lessons, o kaya hinahayaan lang din natin that we dwell on the page 2 where all the pain and suffering is, it's always going against the flow. Because the law of economy states that whatever is meant for you will always come at the path of least resistance. And trust that what is meant for you is to learn. Trust that what is meant for you is to just go through it, to flow with the experience. And syempre, how do we rise above from it? Our Reiki Principles. Just for today, I will trust that I am meant to experience just how it felt. I trust that it is not mine now. I trust that it is an experience that I may have been feeling the pain, I may still feel the suffering, but I am in touch with my reality. Why? Because I am working honestly. I am very truthful and honest with myself. Truth is, kung may naramdaman, it's still there, and there's no judgment on that. Tomorrow is another day, and today, it's still a blessing, because that's our third Reiki principle. It doesn't mean that you're not ready now, does not mean that it's not a blessing. You're taking the time and the energy for you to recognize that you are in the process of healing. And that in itself, you are going to slowly but surely Fuentes. You are slowly but surely on the road to finding and developing peace of mind. That's for sure. And definitely, you've guessed it right. Malaki ang magiging respeto mo lalo sa sarili mo. And not just that, the people around you and the people who have been there in the experiences in the past. Because, let's face it, they may have presented a lesson, pero kung hindi naman din dahil sa situation and sa mga tao na na-encounter natin, wala ring marirealize na blessing. And that is our episode for today. Kung nagustuhan ninyo ang episode natin for today, please give it a big thumbs up para naman ma-inspire kami to keep creating more meaningful contents para sa inyo. Now, in the future, should you have any personal dealings and experiences that you may be needing our personal advice and our spiritual guidance, naka-flash sa screen natin ang ating email address. Please send us an email. We will also honor and respect your identity should you wish to remain anonymous, kasi ang mahalaga ay matulungan namin kayo. So this has been Marky Mendoza again, na nagpapaalala na, alam nyo na, keep trusting the process. Namaskaram.